Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Thursday, the 22nd day of February, year of our Lord 2018. Welcome to the John Moore Show. Well, the breaking news hasn't changed. This Florida shooting remains the top headlines in the national news. In the meantime, we still have major issues taking place, of course, in the Middle East and the Korean Peninsula, and so forth. But this Florida shooting event that took place a week ago today is unusually hardy in terms of staying in the news cycle this long. We believe that there's some funding taking place behind the scenes, as former Sheriff Clark has pointed that out, and I agree with him. Proper tip of the day. I want to encourage everybody to get a scanner to scan the emergency frequencies, police, fire, paramedics. In addition, you should program in your street department and utilities. Even if the local police department has encrypted transmissions or trunking transmissions, you'll still be able to pick up a lot of great information from the fire department, the paramedics, the highway department, and the utility companies. So that's your prepper tip of the day. I also have an announcement to make. I gave Mr. Stadtmiller yesterday afternoon permission to go public with my wife's medical condition. She has been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, and we are struggling with that and doing what we need to do, so to speak. So I just want to get that out there and move on from there. We have patient waiting in the green room, my friend Tim Spencer. Tim is a husband, a father, a grandfather, a rancher, a veteran United States Navy Submarine Corps, where he was both a submariner and a bubblehead, and proprietor of the excellent website ruralsurvival.info. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, John. How you doing this morning, buddy?
Well, hanging in there.
Obvious.
Yeah, hanging in there. Our wild swings of weather going from 80 degrees to back below freezing are a bit disconcerting, but that is the way it is. But we're getting caught up on rainfall, finally, a bit.
Yep.
And our area depends on rainfall for the ranchers to have hay for their cattle and horses, don't they?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I don't know how much more we need. I haven't looked in the past few days, but I would say we need over the next few months at least another 6 to 10 inches, maybe a little more than that.
Well, we'll be praying for rain, and hopefully we'll get it. Tim, the national discourse regarding the tragedy in Florida a week ago today is driven by emotion and ignorance, in my opinion.
I agree.
The emotion is understandable. The tragic loss of 17 innocent young lives, and all the wounded individuals as well. But I want to address the ignorance part of it, which is focusing on a couple of things. The age that an individual can purchase a firearm, and the firearms themselves.
Right.
So let's start with the firearms themselves and the ignorance surrounding them. Earlier this morning, I was mentioning the fact, and it is a fact, that a rifle, shotgun, or pistol manufactured calendar year 1898 or earlier is not legally a firearm. Can be bought and sold just like chewing gum, with no legal connections whatsoever. I'm gonna point out a specific, and this is the reason we're doing this exercise this morning, is because many of my listeners end up in conversations with people who are ignorant of firearms. So we're going to educate people here a bit. There's a type of rifle. It's the 1894 Winchester, which is most, I would say most, I think it's a fair statement, most movies made about Westerns, as I say, would have an 1894 Winchester in it, which, guess what, began its manufacture in 1894, lever-action rifle, which you can still buy brand new, or you can buy the antiques. The 30-30 caliber was popular in 1894, and it's still popular today.
Oh yeah.
As a cartridge that will knock down a deer very effectively. These rifles held 8 rounds. Now, Tim, you don't own an 1894, but you do own a lever-action rifle, don't you, sir?
I have a Model 94 that was made in 1956, John.
Oh, it is a Model 94. Okay.
Yes.
That's great. I wasn't sure. Now, if you've got the 1894 in your hands and a pocket full of loose cartridges, you could load 2 cartridges in how many seconds?
4 or 5 seconds, no problem. That's at a leisurely pace.
Okay, so let's say the deranged person, and the focus really needs to be on mental illness, quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen.
Agreed.
The deranged individual purchases an 1894 lever-action rifle. There's no paperwork because it's not legally a gun as far as the law is concerned. And he has a pocket full of cartridges, let's say 50 cartridges in his pocket, just loose. And his desire in his deranged, mentally ill brain is to murder youngsters in a high school. So walking into high school, the individual would have 8 rounds in the rifle, 8 plus 1 in the chamber, so it'd be 9 rounds.
Right.
And start shooting. So here's what that individual would do. Shoot, load, load. Shoot,
right.
Load. Now, under those conditions, the deranged, mentally ill shooter could accomplish his goal of murdering many youngsters, couldn't he, sir?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, and with much more devastation than a 223 round. That 30-30 is twice the weight, or close to 3 times the weight, I think, isn't it, John?
Well, and, there's still states where you can't legally hunt with a 223 because it's not powerful enough.
Right.
However, on one hand, but the 30-30 cartridge is powerful enough to hunt deer in any of the 50 states where there's deer hunting with rifles allowed. There may be some where it's not, but it's a medium-powered cartridge that is very effective to knock down a deer. The U.S. military bought 50,000 of these rifles during World War II, by the way, and they were used for our militias on the West Coast to make sure that they had something in their hands if the Japanese decided to invade the West Coast. And they're still in use. Several million of these rifles, carbines, have been manufactured since 1894. So it's reliable, accurate, powerful, quickly reloaded, and this is where the ignorance comes in. You probably saw the testimony of the Colorado legislator, a state rep, I believe. Her belief was that a detachable magazine was a piece of equipment that you would load it with ammunition one time, and then it was useless and a disposable item afterwards. You probably saw that testimony.
Yeah, I did see that, and I was almost rolling on the floor laughing, John. I watched that. Yes.
Well, there's nothing like humiliating yourself in front of 200 million people, which is what she did with her ignorance.
Yeah.
But people with that level of knowledge are responsible for making laws, which is pretty scary.
Yeah.
If she was just another soccer mom, ignorant of firearms, it would be a big so what. But this is a person in a position of authority and power to legislate laws. Let's get back to the ignorance of firearms.
Okay.
It's not, there's been powerful firearms capable of murdering many people for well more than a century. Can we agree on that point?
Well, actually, I think it's much longer than that, John, but yes, we can absolutely agree on that.
Well, the original Spencer carbine, which held, I believe, 7 rounds, was introduced in 1860, right at the beginning of the Civil War. No relation to you, I believe, or is there?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, the Spencer carbine. It was modified and re-engineered in 1865, 153 years ago, to be a bit more reliable and less complex. But I'd rather focus on the 1894 Winchester because it is so ubiquitous, so powerful, and so quickly reloaded compared to the Spencer carbine.
Right.
The point of this part of our discussion is to diffuse the argument that there's something uniquely powerful, uniquely dangerous, uniquely weapon or warlike, weapon of warlike about the AR-15. It has, in the minds of many individuals, a sinister, foreboding look about it, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, they say that. I'm not quite sure why, other than the color, it's black.
Right.
You know, you look at the insides of it, it's the same as any other, semi-automatic pretty much. I personally like that AR platform. I don't like everything about the action, but I like the platform.
Well, it's once again, we're talking about people who are ignorant of firearms technology and engineering, and their arguments are driven by two things: ignorance and emotion. The focus, and President Trump has been talking about this, and the mainstream media is trying to diffuse his argument. The focus needs to be on mental health. A person determined to commit murder will, in fact, commit murder unless they're prohibited from circulating in public. That's the way it used to be. I mentioned this earlier in the week, that about 1970 is when they changed all the protocols for treatment of people with mental illness. Before 1970, they just locked them up, and they couldn't hurt themselves or somebody else. About 1970 is when they changed those protocols to evaluate the person, come to a conclusion about what psychotropic drug they needed to be prescribed, and turn them loose after 3 to 7 days back into the general population. Which instantly created a nationwide homeless problem. Prior to that, there was what we used to call hobos, who were choosing that lifestyle. But the nationwide homeless problem did not exist in any numbers of any consequence prior to the changing of the mental illness protocols to become what they've become now the past 48 years, in about 1970. I don't know any other way to stop people who have a mental illness other than to incarcerate them where they can't hurt themselves. Are you aware of another way, Tim?
No, I'm not. And John, I'm going to say something here that you may or may not agree with. If you don't agree with, tell me you don't agree with me. But the thing that scares me about locking people up with mental illnesses is the way governments throughout the last 100 years have used the excuse of mental illness when it was really just political dissidents to get people out of the way to lock them up where they can no longer project their ideas upon the general population.
Right. Well, that's the Soviet system, of course, did that. And they may still be doing it on one hand. On the other, the Soviet system is not based on English common law. Ours is. Right. For an American citizen in the United States to be institutionalized, there has to be a hearing in front of a judge where that person is represented by competent legal counsel. That's not the Soviet. That's not the Soviet system. So we have checks and balances in place to protect people from that very thing that you're concerned about. If we didn't have those checks and balances, I would share your concern. And being in the career field I've been in since 1973, I've had to deal with hundreds of people who have mental issues of one sort or another. Most people come across folks like that inadvertently in their daily life, through social interaction, family matters, whatever it might be, where I've had to deal with people with mental issues and mental challenges professionally as a criminal defense investigator. So I share your concern on one hand. On the other, we do have checks and balances in place to help make sure that doesn't happen. If you've got a question or comment, give us a call at 800-313-9443. Well, Tim, you've got a weekly radio show. Tell us how people can listen live into the archives, if you would, please, sir.
Sure. Well, we are on from 10 a.m. until noon every Saturday morning right here in RBN. When I say we, that's my wife, Lori, and I. If you've never heard the show, I think you'd probably get a kick out of it. It's just like sitting down at the old country store on the corner in front of the wood stove and everybody sitting around drinking coffee and talking. It's really what it is. It's just to, talk about farm stuff, talk about gardening, politics, religion, whatever anybody calls up with. Now, this week, we've got Steve Whitman on. And he's going to be on for the full 2 hours, and I think it's going to be an extremely interesting show.
It will be.
Because Steve is an extremely interesting guy.
He is.
And I encourage people to call in, talk to Steve yourself. You can ask him about his books. You can ask him about his fish camp. Anything you want to talk about, and we'll talk about it. So I am really looking forward to having my friend Steve there.
Right. I refer to Steve Whitman as, quote unquote, a civilized crocodile Dundee.
Yes.
And that's a compliment, and I've said this to Steve personally, a civilized crocodile Dundee. There's a local real estate company. The name of it is Living the Dream, and Steve Whitman is a good example of somebody who is, quote unquote, living the dream, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, absolutely. He is doing what Steve wanted to do, and he is living his life dream, and he is having a blast doing it. It's that simple.
I overheard a conversation at the country club I belong to, where they were talking about working a job you can't stand for 40 years. Yeah, here's our break. Call numbers 800-313-9443. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. Thank you. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 22nd of February. Tim, the Native American chief that you introduced me to, he told a story about standing near the railroad track, holding a Model 94 Winchester, wearing a dark blue tunic with brass buttons, holding the carbine comfortably across his arms there as a train went by, and how that became a pretty notorious story locally, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Everything from phone calls to the sheriff wanting to know if the people were on the warpath again to just general shock and amazement. And I'm sure, though he didn't say so, I'm sure lots and lots of pictures.
Well, my vision is that, I don't know if there's any photographs, but he probably stood there with a very stoic look on his face. Would that be somewhat accurate?
Yeah, I guarantee he did. Oh, absolutely. He's a showman.
Well, did that carbine have the brass tack decorations that used
yes,
to be done?
Yes, it was. It was. Yes, it was. I actually saw a picture of the rifle, and it was fully tacked out.
Does yours?
No.
Oh, well, it should.
No, I'm not one for that fancy stuff.
Okay, all right. We got a caller on hold here. We got Dennis in Indiana. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, Mr. Moore. I have a 22, just a regular 22 I bought from Kmart years ago or Walmart years ago. I've got an AR-15. Hey, I've got a
Turn down your radio,
automatic.
Dennis. Turn down your radio,
okay.
Dennis. We're getting
all right. So. I understand.
Okay,
and I've got a Browning automatic, which I love because when I used to deer hunt, I used to take that with me. But then I had a bacterial infection in me that affected my brain, so I have mental illness now too. So I did have the wrong kind of thoughts, not killing any other people, but I didn't know what was wrong with me. I thought God hated me, and sometimes I wanted to use my gun on myself, but I didn't. It's because I have OCD. My brain locked up with terrible thoughts in it. But, there were, people with the SSRIs and people that are convicted gun felons, instead of taking their guns away from people like all these liberals are planning on, why can't, when they get a person for habitual drinking and driving and stuff, they put the ankle bracelet around their ankles and they can't take it off unless they figure out a way to take it off. Isn't there any way they can put something like a notch or a tag in one of the ears, or a tattoo or something, a bracelet around the wrist of a person that tells the gun owners and the police and everything what they're on, or that they're not that they shouldn't be allowed to have a gun, or it's unremovable, or even if they put a certain tattoo mark on one of their arms, that it can't be erased, it can't be messed with any other way, because they can maybe make it, where the skin is protected, where they can't add to it, or have a tattoo artist remove it or add to it, to make it look different. There's got to be a way to do that.
Well, chasing technology is not the solution, because a person who wants to cause harm only has to hijack a truck and drive it into a crowd of teenagers to murder a bunch of teenagers. So chasing technology will not work, Dennis.
Yeah, I'm just talking on the gun situation itself.
Well,
there's so many ways they could kill.
I appreciate the thought, but what you're saying would not stop a determined person from committing mass murder. And Dennis, we do thank you for your call. Any follow-up before we go to our next caller here, Tim?
Yeah, real quick. I understand the sentiment that Dennis is presenting, but like you said, John, if somebody is determined to kill people, look at you and I. We don't need a gun or even a knife to kill people. Neither one of us do. It's that simple. You're not going to stop a determined person.
No.
What are they going to do? If they decide I'm mentally ill, are they going to cut off my hands or your hands?
Right. Well, a typical gasoline delivery truck has 5,000 gallons, and one of those driven into a crowded auditorium and exploded would do far more harm than an AR-15 would ever do.
I absolutely agree.
Our last caller this half hour is John in Arlington. We're almost out of time, John. Make it quick.
Hello. I have a question. Do you find that the timing of this recent school shooting in Parkland, Florida, be the timing of it to be suspicious? I mean, it happens right.
No,
you don't find the fact that they're having all these investigations that implicate Hillary Clinton.
Not at all. John, thank you for the call. We got a bottom of the hour break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our Energy Cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the Energy Cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 22nd of February. This is 24 minutes I look forward to every week, where we take 24 minutes to talk about a very special product. It's called the Energy Cleaner. If you're a new listener, listen up. You're going to get a little education here. Energy Cleaner is a marvelous healing device. That's what it is. And we start these conversations with my friend Tom Berryhill, the manufacturer, giving us our disclaimer. Good morning, Tom.
Hi, John. Good morning. We are not doctors or medical professionals. We don't diagnose, treat, or cure any illness or disease. The information discussed today is for your education and entertainment only. If you have a medical condition requiring treatment, you should utilize the services of a medical doctor, chiropractor, or other competent practitioner.
All right. Thank you, sir. Well, every other week we draw a postcard. I've reached into the envelope and look at the nice picture on the front here. I don't know who that is. I've drawn this postcard out, and it's Mary in area code 512. Mary, I will send you an email and attempt to call you, letting you know that your postcard has been drawn. It's postmarked San Francisco, by the way. And we will let you know that you can buy an Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 20% off retail. So that's a lot of fun. It's a fun project, and the people that get these Energy Cleaners are very grateful that they can get access to this modality. That's what it is. It's a modality. Going back, now you've been at this, Tom, I think this is year number 18 for you, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, John, it's about right. Started in March of 2000.
Okay.
That's when we started.
And I've been with you now. This is my 8th year selling Energy Cleaners. It's been very gratifying to be helping hundreds of people all over the planet. I have not yet shipped one to the Antarctic that I know of. There may have been a drop ship to somebody else who got it to the Antarctic, but every other continent has Energy Cleaners on them. And here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. It's a healing device, about the size of a cigar box, takes 9 D-cell batteries, no on-off switch, no gauges, no dials, simply one LED light that alternately flashes red or green, telling you 2 things. It's working, and it's changing polarity. One place to plug in one wire, which can be plugged into the mattress pads I offer for sale, or to a metal spoon if you want to use the hot tub or bathtub method, or to a piece of aluminum foil, maybe 4 or 5 thicknesses, that you can place on an elbow or a knee or a shoulder to direct that energy to a localized spot for healing purposes. Tim Spencer is our regular guest with us on Thursdays, unless he's got a conflict. It has to be someplace else. But Tim began it would have been around the first week of October, 8 years ago, wouldn't it, Tim, when you started using it? Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was when you first started carrying the energy cleaner, yeah.
So I had a high level of confidence that it would help Tim's condition dealing with pain, which you'd been given basically every prescription painkiller known to mankind for most of your adult life up to that point in time, hadn't you?
Yeah, from the time I was like 24, 25 years old up until then, yeah, I'd been on everything from Tramadol to Tylox to Oxycontin to hydrocodone. I'd been on them all. Right.
Now, this is a consequence of two things. The first injury on a U.S. Navy submarine where you were exposed to ionizing radiation 8 hours a day, 7 days a week for a tour of how many months was it? Was it 4 or 6?
Actually, at sea, about 2 months.
2 months, okay. And then the second injury, which caused your back to be broken.
Right, that was a painful one.
Another submarine tour where that back injury happened, which went undiagnosed for
almost 4 months.
4 months because they didn't have an X-ray machine. They were giving you pain meds, but your back began healing on its own improperly, didn't it?
Yeah, correct. And that's the reason I had to have all those surgeries.
So that began your interaction with the healthcare professionals, the pain meds. Fast forward to September 8 years ago, and 2010. You were in pain standing up. You were in pain sitting down. You couldn't go down steps without assistance. Going up steps was difficult, and you'd taken. You were considering yourself a burden on your family because you needed so much care that you had already visited the General Pershing VA Center in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, in preparation for you becoming a resident there, weren't you?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And they were fully willing to accept me. I mean, there was no problems there. It'd just take a phone call, and I'd be there the next day.
Because you met all the criteria necessary to be considered an invalid, didn't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So that's where we were, September, 8 years ago. Tim went with me to the first expo put on by Vince Finelli down in Springfield. I put together an energy cleaner package for Tim, which was the energy cleaner with the batteries already installed, the screen pad.
Even the duct tape and batteries.
The duct tape, the batteries, and the energy cleaner. And I presented this to Tim, and because of our friendship and because he trusted me as an individual, he decided to use this funny-looking little white, kind of cream-colored plastic box. They're now black, by the way, which I think looks much better. And because it's a leap of faith to look at something the size of a cigar box and be told, oh, by the way, Tim, those hospitals that take up a square block full of millions of dollars worth of equipment, hundreds of healthcare professionals that went to school 8, 10, and 12 years past high school, that this little plastic box will do things all those individuals can't do. That's a pretty big leap of faith, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is. And I'll be honest with you, John, the reason, it wasn't that I didn't trust you, and it wasn't that I really doubted what you said. But you got to remember, at the time, the way I was hurting, for me to strip the bed, put the energy cleaner together, that was actually, most people it's nothing, but for me that was a major evolution. And, it really was. And it probably took me an hour to do it. Take a breath, bend over, grit and bear the pain, and, go back to...
And was it a matter of pride? You didn't ask the other 3 adults in your home to do that for you?
Pretty much, yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought so. Well, you got it together after about 2 weeks. You started sleeping on it, and you started feeling a difference in the pain situation. How quickly?
Well, actually, John, that's funny. I don't know if I've talked to you and Tom about it or not, but my very first night on it, pretty much from my waist down, I felt sort of like a tingling, not quite an electric charge, but just sort of a tingling. And
Right.
then the next night, I actually started getting some pain relief. So really, the second night, I started getting a little bit, but I just didn't trust it. I thought it was a fluke. I'd gone 2 or 3 days before with little pain.
Right.
And so, but after a week, there was no doubt in my mind what was going on.
Well, and then it was another week or so after that. It was several weeks before you decided to go public because you
I think
won't put
about
your name.
3.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because you won't put your name behind something until you're convinced that it's a real deal and not some fluke or
Correct.
placebo effect. And of course, we always joke about how they keep the bedroom door closed because the dogs will all gravitate towards it. There's no such thing as a placebo effect with animals, is there, Tim?
No, there's not. No, you're absolutely correct.
So
if nobody's in there to tell them no, they will jump up on that bed and get on that energy cleaner. There's no question about that.
And that's ubiquitous. All the energy cleaner owners who have dogs and cats, they report the same thing. And they also report that older dogs that have arthritis and can barely walk anymore start acting like puppies again, which is kind of funny, but that is what happens. Well, Tim, you were surprised. You started getting relief, and you went from not being able to. You could hardly get out of bed without assistance. What was the situation for getting in and out of a bathtub, for example, in that period of time?
The bathtub was almost impossible. Shower I could do. I still needed help sometimes. Bathtub, no, that was impossible.
And would it be accurate to say the following summer, once it got warm, you were riding your ponies, you're a horseman, and climbing radio towers?
Yeah, I got pictures to prove both.
Amazing. You went from being an invalid to riding your horses and climbing radio towers, which most men want nothing to do with either activity. But you were doing those things.
Well, I don't think I want to do the radio tower stunt anymore. You saw that picture. I was like 65 feet up in the air. And my son-in-law and my daughter helped me with that, too, and I don't think they liked it any better than I did.
Well, that's the height of a 6-story building, and it's 10 feet per story. That's pretty far up there, but you did it.
Yeah.
And got your life back. So you've been able to stay with your family all these years, see your grandchildren every day, as opposed to once a week or once every 2 or 3 weeks, because we know what that daycare would have become weekly care, which would have become monthly care, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah. That's just the way things go. Nothing against anybody. It's just the way things go.
It is. And it could, for a lot of reasons. On a warm, sunny day, those roads between your home and Poplar Bluff is like taking your life in your hands on a Six Flags ride. I know those roads. They're really they were never meant for modern traffic, in my opinion. So you got your life back, and now you've got all 4 adults are making use of the energy cleaner. You and your wife, and your daughter and her husband, right?
Correct.
Pretty neat. The whole Spencer family. All the adults in the Spencer family, they're in Salem, Missouri, are getting relief every night, and life is grand. Here's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. The energy cleaner puts out a electrostatic signal. It's not a Rife frequency generator. It's not a TENS unit. People want to compare it to something they understand and know. It's entirely different technology. This frequency, this energy goes to every cell in your body, flushing out toxins, bringing in fresh nutrition. The name of the energy cleaner is kind of hokey and kind of funny, but it is somewhat accurate, isn't it, Tom?
Well, yeah, John, it is. And how it came about, I was talking with Lee Kroc, and he wanted to change the name because the Ohio State Medical Board had prosecuted him for practicing medicine without a license. Not by using the energy cleaner, but by what he was saying, he was talking about curing very illnesses and diseases, and just the words he used were getting us in trouble. The early name of this product was called the energy stimulator, and that was even maybe more accurate as to what it's doing, because it's stimulating the energy in the body, so the body can repair many different things. But Lee he was trying to come up with different names. He talked about the energy cleaner being a sort of like a vacuum cleaner to pull out toxins and so on. And so he decided, since we're doing energy healing, he would call it an energy cleaner. I didn't like it, but it's like a lot of things. The name stuck, and it's well known now, and we just leave it alone and keep going with it.
Yeah, well, it is well known, and we have no intention of changing that name. And so we move forward with that name. And I've been at this long enough time, I've noticed pretty quickly people were buying multiple units, but just in the last 12 to 18 months, I've noticed a dramatic increase in people buying their second, third, fourth, fifth units. Dr. Joe, who's called in, a medical doctor, he's bought 5 for his personal use for his family so far. And we have multiple examples of people who are buying second and third units for siblings, children, parents, and so forth, so that the people they care about will get relief. But buying that first unit is the first leap of faith, isn't it, Tim?
Yeah, it is. It is, because, there are so many charlatans out there selling snake oil that I can understand people being skeptical. But with your 90-day money-back guarantee, they don't have anything to lose, really. And you stand behind that guarantee. I know that for a fact. They truly don't have anything to lose.
No, they don't, and that's why I started with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Now it's expanded to 90-day money-back guarantee. So what I'm no healthcare professional. I'm a homicide detective, radio talk show host, living in the Ozarks, a 45-minute drive to the first red, yellow, and green traffic signal. And what do I know about health? I'm a homicide detective. So people need to have some reassurance. They need to have some peace of mind that when they make their purchase of an energy cleaner, that there's some veracity, that there's something behind it. Now, Mr. Statmiller, the owner of Republic Broadcasting, wouldn't tolerate any of his hosts not living up to the agreement they have with their listeners. My agreement is, if the energy cleaner doesn't work, you got 90 days to ship it back, and I refund your money, no questions asked.
Right.
If I didn't honor that agreement that I have, that warranty, I wouldn't be on Republic Broadcasting another show. It simply would not happen. No. But I do, and it's not an issue. I sell about 10 of these a week, which sounds like about 520 a year to me. 52 weeks in a year, and I get about once a quarter. Somebody will ship one back, and I refund their money on the spot. We got a caller on hold here, gentlemen. We got Diane in Arizona. Good morning, Diane.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Go ahead, Diane. You're on the air.
I have a question concerning using the energy cleaner for gardening in this area of the spring, and I wanted to put out some little pots for transplanting. And my question is, do you put it like a screen below the little pots for transplanting? And when you have a small field planted, do you put it above? Does it have to put little?
We'll give you a detailed answer after the break, Diane. Stay tuned. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Monday, the 22nd. Disregard on Thursday, the 22nd. Got different notes here in front of me. If you want an energy cleaner, you can call my toll-free order line at 800-313. Now I got too many notes in front of me here. At 800-592-9543, 800-592-9543, or right at my website at thelibertyman.com. Tom, give Diane a quick summary of using the energy cleaner for plant growth, if you would, please, sir.
Very non-critical. You need to find a suitable spot to put these seedlings if you're starting with small pots like that. You can lay out some layers of aluminum foil or aluminum screen wire or chicken wire, anything of that type that's electrically conductive, preferably metal, will work fine. Lay that out on a table, and you want to make sure that this grid of wire or foil, anything that you're using, make sure it's not grounded. Make sure if it's on a metal table, make sure the metal table isn't touching the earth if you're doing this outside, any kind of an earth ground. If it's in the house on a floor, whether it be a tile or carpeting, there's no problem there. That's fine. In fact, if it's a metal table, you can charge up the whole table. That will radiate the signal. It can be underneath the plants. If you prefer to go over the plants, you just simply suspend some chicken wire. That seems to work the best over the top of the plants, keeping it as close to the plants as possible. Got to be very careful, though, when you're using chicken wire close to the plants, because they'll start growing so fast, they'll grow into that chicken wire and get tangled up in there, and you've got a real mess on your hands. Right, Tim?
Absolutely.
That's exactly what's going to happen, and Tim can elaborate on that and talk about how fast the seedlings started to grow in his experiment. He was caught off guard.
For us, it was twice as fast.
There you go. That's right. We've heard this so many times. It's twice as fast. So, with that in mind, Diane, you can get it set up that way. Once you have the plants in your garden area and they're in the ground and growing, you can simply put in some fence posts. I like the metal, the T-shaped posts that have holes punched in them. It allows you to use electric fence insulators so that the fence post is insulated from the chicken wire grid, and you just simply support that chicken wire grid over the tops of the plants. And the holes punched in those fence posts allow you to move the entire chicken wire grid up as the plants begin to grow. And they will grow fast, so you need to check this at least every couple of days. I would say if you keep the chicken wire grid within maybe 3 or 4 inches of the plant, you're going to have good success, and you can go from there. I've also seen people take those round type of the wire grids that I don't know what they call them, but they grow tomato plants in those, and it helps to support the tomatoes. They'll actually support those with short pieces of PVC pipe with an end cap on it to keep it from being grounded, and support that off the ground and clip onto that. It works great.
There we go. Diane, contact me privately if you've got any other questions, okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Okay, that's it for this hour. We'll be back with Tim Spencer's second hour. Tom, thank you for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here, our second hour on Thursday, the 22nd of February. Breaking news continues to be the events that took place in Florida a week ago today. Highly unusual for the news cycle to have this kind of event stay in the news this long. Some evidence that George Soros is using money to influence this news cycle. Prepper tip of the day, and we'll encourage people to, if they don't have one, to purchase a scanner so they can listen to the police, fire department, paramedics, sheriff's department, highway department, street department, utilities, even if Your local police department is using encryption, which is becoming more popular, especially in the cities. These other entities will give you a big heads up on what's going on if there's a crisis in the area that you live in. We have back with us the second hour, Tim Spencer, the proprietor of ruralsurvival.info. And we're going to continue our discussion from the first hour regarding the ignorance of people when it comes to firearms technology, the gun culture, and so forth. Tim, you know, I've been investigating complex legal matters, beginning as a paralegal initially in 1972. I was involved in a massive antitrust lawsuit, United States of America versus the American Optometric Association. I was part of the defense team. We produced, there was no computers, by the way. The only people who had computers were the U.S. Navy and maybe the other parts of the government. We answered interrogatories, and I got my very own interrogatory, just for me. And we had, probably 60 or 70 five-drawer file cabinets. And my interrogatory, John Moore's interrogatory, was to produce copies of all correspondence between the Georgia Optometric Association and the American Optometric Association from 1898 to the present date.
Holy smokes.
Holy smokes is right. And I did. And everything had to be documented and cross-referenced. Point being, I understand evidence. I understand legal matters. And in many, not all, but in many investigations, you look for two things. What's the same and what's different?
Right.
Now, an 18-year-old could walk into a gun shop beginning in 1964. That sounds like more than a half a century to me, doesn't it, you, Tim?
Yeah.
1964, an 18-year-old could walk into any gun shop in the United States of America and buy an AR-15. In 1964, an 18-year-old could purchase an AR-15 by mail order and have it delivered to his house.
True again.
Because you could. In 1964, an 18-year-old could buy as many 30-round or 20-round magazines as he wanted to, could buy as much ammunition as he wanted to, and guess what? He didn't do that and go shoot up a school, did he?
No. And, you know, John, this is an aside. You're talking about what's legal. But in reality, I know that when I was 15 years old, I bought a brand new Remington 870 Wingmaster 16-gauge shotgun, and nobody blinked an eye.
Right. Nobody blinked an eye. So, access to firearms is actually far more restrictive now. You're not going to buy, at least legally, not going to buy any firearm through the mail as an individual. If you're a dealer, you can, but that's the only way you can.
If I want to buy something through the mail, I have to have it sent to, somebody like Sam Andrews or something like that. I can't receive it here at the house.
Right. And that's the same. If I find something I like on GunBroker, I contact my dealer. I have my dealer take delivery of it, and I pay him a fee for his service. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
In the modern age, in 2018. So the focus needs to be on what's different, not what's the same. That's where the focus needs to be. What's different is people. The firearms, a 1964 AR-15 is essentially the same as a 2018 AR-15. There's some cosmetic differences and so forth, but for all intents and purposes, the exact same rifle. The ammunition's the same. The ammunition's the same. The 20-round magazines are the same. What's different is who's allowed to walk the streets. In 1964, if you had a mental condition that was determined you were possibly harmful to yourself or other individuals, you in fact would be locked up so you could not harm anybody or yourself. That's the way it was. That is the way it was. And this needs to be emphasized over, and it's been touched on. The mass media is rejecting this true argument and focusing on technology, focusing on firearms. That's where the focus does not need to be. That's what it is not helpful. It is playing on people's emotion, playing on people's ignorance, playing on what people see on TV and movie shows to accelerate and amplify this ignorance. It all plays hand in hand together to go the wrong direction, doesn't it, Tim?
It does. It does. It's people. Let me put it like this: the collective of people that believe they are anti-gun are simply not thinking things out. All one has to do is look at history. What has happened every time in every major government where firearms were confiscated? And if we want to look at a day, something current day, not past ancient history, what's going on in Venezuela right now, where all the firearms have been confiscated, except for the militias?
Well, what's happening in Venezuela is the criminals are basically taking over. Where if you're in business delivering food, you expect to be stopped and hijacked. That's become an expectation. Where now they're running convoys to help cut down on that chance of being hijacked if you're carrying food. So yes, that is in fact what's going on in Venezuela as we speak.
That's correct.
Of course, the communists took over there 20-something years ago, so one of the first things communists do when they take over any country is make sure that only the government has firearms, and of course that leaves the government and the criminals with firearms, doesn't it?
Right, exactly. The criminals aren't going to turn in their gun.
You don't think so?
It's not going to happen.
I'm shocked. You don't think so? I'm shocked.
I don't see that happening. Of course, and again, in this country, if they came out with some kind of an order like that, I don't see the majority of this country complying either.
Well, we made heroin illegal. That's worked out pretty good, hasn't it?
Yeah, you can see how well that's worked out.
Yeah. Opium is illegal. Yeah, that's worked out pretty good. We're losing more people every year to drug overdoses than we did during the entire Vietnam War. More than 50,000 a year deaths. That sounds like about 1,000 people a week. During the worst part of the Vietnam War, we were losing between 150, 200 a week during the worst parts of the Vietnam War. So making things illegal, and there's a statement I've been making for quite a few years that holds true and will always hold true. The market will always meet the demand. That is a true
positively,
statement.
John. There's no question about it.
Well-meaning people thought the Volstead Act, they amended the Constitution of the United States to make the manufacture, transport, purchase of alcohol illegal. That worked out real good. The Kennedys are still drinking champagne on the profits of running whiskey from Canada to the United States, aren't they?
Yeah, and they probably got some of that very same whiskey stored. Man, that might be some good stuff.
Yeah, well, just in the last year or two, no more than 2 years at the most, work was being done in Detroit where a pipeline was found that went under the lake to Canada, where the whiskey was actually being piped in this pipe from Canada. Now that's some.
I love it.
That's some serious infrastructure, and
it is.
We aren't talking some barefoot hillbillies making a little whiskey on the side. We're talking about a major size operation here, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. For something like that, yeah. And it had to be done with the knowledge of the Canadian government.
Well, I don't know about that. But why would the Canadian government care about American laws?
Well, they're just looking at the money coming in.
Well, the tremendous.
That'd be my thinking.
Tremendous profits.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the emotions are incredibly high. The family, the friends of the people who were murdered and wounded a week ago today. It'll be, I'll see, it was late afternoon. It was just before school let out a week ago today, is my recollection. Does that sound right?
It was Valentine's Day. I know that.
Oh, was it Valentine's? Well, that would be, no, I think it was the day after
Wednesday,
Valentine's.
I think.
I think it was...
No, it was Valentine's Day. It was 14th.
Was it the 14th? Okay, so a week ago yesterday. Regardless, the emotions are incredibly high emotions, intense emotions, all of which are expected. No parent should ever have to bury their child. I agree. That's just unnatural, totally unexpected, especially under those conditions. Having a child die from disease or an automobile accident is bad enough on one hand, but having a child murdered in a gun-free zone by somebody with a gun,
right?
It's so tragic in so many ways. And President Trump was very gracious in welcoming these youngsters and their parents into the White House yesterday. He didn't need to do that. He really didn't.
No.
But he did. But he did. And he made a good point about how to and the media doesn't want to talk about it. They mention it because they have no choice. He made a good point about arming teachers. That's what works. Now,
and there was a big outcry this morning because he mentioned arming teachers. Like that's the most horrible thing in the world that he could mention.
Exactly. Well, that's what works. That's what works.
Yeah, it does.
The fall of 2001, I was one of the behind-the-scenes advisors to the pilots, the commercial pilots who wanted to get authority to carry pistols on the planes, and I spent hours on the phone with the pilots to give them advice on how to lobby Congress and be successful. That legislation went through incredibly quickly. I think it was a matter of maybe 3 to 4 months. I don't recall specifically.
Yeah, it was fast.
It was really fast
for that kind of,
for any legislation, let alone something of that nature. It's been a good program. Now, it's not a huge percentage. It's something like, I believe, maybe 10 or 15% of the commercial pilots are armed. All of them could be if they chose to. Most don't. But the bad guys don't know because they're carrying concealed.
Right. And the bad guys don't know which pilot's armed and which ones aren't, so that they really want to take that chance.
Now, one of the ironic, and I find it, I love irony. One of the, the pilots have to go through the TSA checkpoint just like everybody else. So here he comes. Here comes the pilot with his pistol, probably a Glock, and he's being checked by an unarmed TSA agent for weapons.
Right.
So the armed pilot is being checked by the unarmed TSA pilot, safety officer, security officer for weapons. I find that rather ironic, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I really do. And, there's been a lot of tests by Homeland Security on these checkpoints in airports where the TSA employees are supposed to be screening everybody. Well, what Homeland Security is doing is running what they call Zulu 5 Oscars, or what the military calls Zulu 5 Oscars, security drill, trying to get through a checkpoint with a bomb or a gun.
Right.
And Homeland Security is like 80% successful in penetrating TSA security. So, to me, that's a joke.
Right. Well, back when I was getting out of off-active duty the first time in 1970, myself and 2 of my buddies, we looked at becoming sky marshals. It was a brand new program at the time.
Right.
And
that was back when they were hijacking planes to Cuba, wasn't it?
Yeah, what a crazy thing to do. But we looked at it, the money looked good. We'd get to rub elbows with all these very attractive young women, the flight attendants, and go to different cities all over the world, of course. But all 3 of us decided that after the novelty wore off and about 4 to 6 months, it would just be like riding a bus every day of the week, and
it would be.
It would be, and we all declined that career path. But there's still sky marshals, aren't there?
Oh yeah, there are. I've actually talked to a few. Now this is many years ago, back when I used to fly back and forth across the Atlantic every week. But yeah, I've actually made friends with a few over the years. Haven't kept in touch with any of them. In fact, I'm pretty sure most of them are either dead or long retired at least.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
they were basically bored to death, John.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would. Because you have to be. I'm a reader, and I wouldn't, if I was a sky marshal, I couldn't keep my nose stuck in a book. I would have to be on alert during the entire flight, which, and I would probably have to get up to make. I would probably want to sit in the front of the plane, so I'd have an excuse to walk to the back.
Right.
And use the restroom, although even if I didn't have to use the restroom, I would walk back there anyway, just to see what was going on, and who looked like they were fitting a profile. And of course you're going to profile, aren't you?
Oh, you got to. There's no way around it. You got a guy sitting there reading the Quran and, chanting Allah Akbar to himself. Yeah, that's going to perk your ears up.
Or sweating profusely or talking to himself. Yeah.
Right.
Here's our break. Call numbers 800-313-9443. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. Thank you. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 22nd of February. Visiting with Tim Spencer, the proprietor of ruralsurvival.info, where there's an index. There's an index at ruralsurvival.info. I think it's about 72 pages of all
52, John.
Books. How many?
52
pages of all the publications, books, and other publications on the flash drive offered for sale at ruralsurvival.info. Tell us about that flash drive. Do you have any in stock there, Tim?
Sure. Yeah, I do. I've got about 7 of them right now, all burned, ready to go. I can ship them out this minute. Let me see. Basically, folks, what it is an 8-gigabyte flash drive with 6.1 gigabytes of information on it. And this information is everything from how-to papers on canning or brochures, for that matter, to 300-page books. There's tons of technical manuals. You can learn how to break down service and do maintenance on a Browning 50 caliber machine gun, or you can rebuild a generator. There's just all kinds of information. It's about 1,570 documents. And
all right, a library on a flash drive. Plus, there's storage room on there for storing other important personal documents, birth certificates, wedding, marriage certificate, marriage license, car titles, real estate information, insurance information, health information. There's plenty of space for important documents, which in the event of a crisis where you have to pick up and leave in a hurry, having access to those documents could be a really big deal, couldn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And by the way, John, this is an aside that won't affect most people, but I got a phone call from an elderly woman, it was probably 2 weeks ago. She didn't have a marriage certificate. Hers was recorded in the family Bible back in 1939, I think she said. And she wanted to know how to put that on her flash drive. I told her it's very simple. You take a picture of it, and then you take that picture and you put that on the flash drive via your computer. Right. And she thought that was the neatest thing in the world. She was not at all computer illiterate.
Right.
I mean, she understood what I was saying, but I guess she just didn't make the connection in her mind how easy it was.
Right. Well, sometimes the obvious is not so obvious, and I'm glad you were able to help her. So people can look at that 52-page index at your website and place their order right there also, can't they?
Oh, yeah. We take orders by PayPal, which means we'll take any credit card that PayPal accepts. I think the only one they don't accept is Diners Club and American Express. I think they accept every other one. And we ship them worldwide. And just like you with the energy cleaners, I think I've shipped to every continent unless Antarctica.
Okay. Well, that's good, and people should take advantage of that and get their own. Tim, I have here in front of me a magazine advertisement for the Colt AR-15. This is back around 1964, 65. Full retail price, $189.50.
Right.
The same rifle.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, the same rifle now. This is genuine Colt, of course.
Yes.
Would be $1,200 or so, it's the ignorance out there is it's just phenomenal, isn't it?
It is. Hey, John, I got a question for you about the AR-15 platform. I, for some reason, like the old ones, the ones with the full stock and all that, as compared to the collapsible and folding stocks they got now. What is your preference? I'm just curious.
Well, first of all, I don't like the platform. I don't like the rifle.
Really?
I was going to sell mine, but my grandson liked it so much that he got it for his 21st birthday.
Cool.
Well, there's more than 50,000 names on a black granite wall in Washington, D.C., men and some women who died during Vietnam. Many of those names are there. The men died with a M16 in their hands. It was jammed, and when they died, many of them. And that's why I don't like that rifle and never will. The defects it had a half a century ago for stoppages after about 300 to 400 rounds still exist today. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our energy cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the energy cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 22nd of February. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. Our project, it is truly our project. Locating images of continents with new coastlines is into the second year now. It actually started quite a few years ago, but last year is when it really took off. If you find one yourself, it did, didn't it? If you find an image of a continent with new coastlines, get that screen capture to me, an image on a movie or a TV show. Get that screen capture to me. You get your choice in my 5 DVDs. We've got our first one posted for 2018. Somebody loaded this excellent image from the wildly popular TV show Sea Hunt with Lloyd Bridges, which I think was filmed not far from where you grew up, wasn't it, Tim?
Oh, yes. Actually, it was very close to where I grew up. At least that time I spent in the Keys. I believe most of it was filmed around Florida City and Marathon, maybe as far south as Isla Mirada. But,
right.
Yeah, I mean, I was there at that time, but too little to understand what was going on when that came out.
Right. And I always remember the expressions of Lloyd Bridges underwater with his mask on, the expressions that he was able to have on his face.
Yeah.
When he came across a German submarine or whatever it was underwater, he always had an adventure every week. Yeah. So get those images to me. Also at my website, of course, you'll find energy cleaners for sale. We talked about for 24 minutes last hour. You want more details? The patent application information, that's all there at my website where you can place your order using PayPal. PayPal is, in fact, the most secure way to make any purchase online. Somebody was telling me last week that Amazon no longer takes PayPal. I use PayPal and Amazon every week, so it's not Amazon.
I used it 2 or 3 days ago, John.
Yeah, Amazon does take PayPal, so that's a misnomer there. MasterCard, Visa, you need to send a check. You can send me a check. My address is right there at my website at thelibertyman.com. And I have a toll-free hour line 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Take your questions, calls, and comments here at Republic Broadcasting at 800-313-9443. The arguments that Americans get into sometimes are, I would compare to the Middle Ages when they were, highly educated men were debating how many angels could dance on the head of a pin, weren't they?
Yeah, you're right. Some of this stuff is incredible, and I know you're referring to the gun situation, but there's one thing I was thinking about during the bottom of the hour break, John, and that was, I wonder if these people that so much want to disarm good Americans understand that the natural follow-on is slavery. And that is the natural follow-on.
Well, that's part of the natural follow-on. And the other, we had a caller a couple of days ago. I said, here's 2 words to partly diffuse this. 2 words. Ghost gunner.
Right.
Ghost gunner. Now, and this is radio. We always got people who've never heard these arguments or these discussions before. We live in a day and age where many people have little to no knowledge of anything involving metalworking, machine shops, machine tools, CNC equipment, and things like a 3D printer scare the hell out of liberals because they figure out people can fabricate parts at home in the privacy of their home. But the ghost gunner is a level of ghost gunner device is one step above most current 3D printers, because this is actually a CNC machine to do machine work. And you take a chunk of metal, steel, put it in the Ghost Gunner machine, have it properly programmed. Obviously, that's pretty simple. Any high school kid could do this. Push the go button, and a little bit later, you've got a complete receiver for an AR-15 or a 1911
or
pistol,
a Glock, or
a Glock,
anything.
ready to go. Ready to go.
All you need is a billet of good steel.
That's all you need. I talked to Ghost Gunner about advertising on my show. They said, John, we got a 6-month backlog in orders. We don't need to advertise anywhere. Excuse me. Chasing technology is a flawed concept. In anything except possibly nuclear weapons, and I would make that exception. But otherwise, chasing technology is fatally flawed. The emphasis needs to be on people, not on technology. We started out this discussion about how these firearms manufactured before 1898 are not even legally guns and are just as deadly, if not more so, than an AR-15. We have a couple of callers on hold here. First, we have Johnny in Missouri. Good morning, Johnny.
Good morning, John and party. Appreciate the time. I've got a question about that energy device, but I also want to comment on the firearms. Guys, those are tools, and they were always treated as tools up to the point that Lincoln started our corporate military and pushed them out across the world. But I just don't understand how they get this. Anything can be a defensive weapon, man. A pencil is a defensive weapon if used properly.
Yes.
So this whole dichotomy we've got going on over the whole gun issue just strikes me completely sideways.
Well, it does.
We're going to see a lot of. We've got a lot of information that's going to start spilling out about the psychotropics, the pharmaceuticals. That has got to break out upon the scene.
It needs to. And
absolutely. And those psychotropics go back into what they've done with the genetically modified foods that G.H.W. Bush pushed into the market. So,
what's your question about the energy cleaner, Johnny?
Well, I was wondering, is that a DC? Is that direct current?
There's no current. There is no current.
That's why
we change the batteries once a year. It's a signal. It's similar to a radio putting out a signal.
Oh, very cool.
There's no current. There's no current. That's why you only need one wire, because there's no current. It's more like a radio signal than it is anything else. See, you can't put a voltmeter and detect anything. There's no voltage. There's no current.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to take a deeper look into that, John. That's
okay.
Thanks. I just want to give you a heads up. That information that we spoke on a couple of days ago, I sent a package to you the way it came to me, so I thought that would be the best way to present it to you.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Best of luck, guys.
Next, we go to Kyle in the beautiful Big Sky country of Montana. Morning, Kyle.
Good morning, John. I know I'm preaching to the choir here a little bit, but the thing that we can never forget about this gun debate that's going on is the left, or the, however you want to put it, the communists, whatever these guys really truly are. The reality is they are using the spur of the moment emotions to try to get actions passed that will be detrimental to the people of this country. They just don't know it, because they're thinking emotionally. But their goal, you think about it, even if they got rid of all AR-15s, pretty soon somebody would use a hunting rifle, okay, or a pistol, or something else. And the goal is to get rid of all guns and they're not going to really, they're relentless in this stopping, and the NRA just happens to be the focal point. You know what I'm saying? I'm more of a Gun Owners of America guy, but the NRA is just the tip of the spear that is out there that's getting the flack, which they're doing all right. You know what I mean? Although, they wrote that thinking assault right, that assault weapons ban. I'm pretty ticked about that. But anyway, just the reality is people got to stop thinking and realize, stop thinking emotionally and realize that, like you said, part of this program is that every time there's been a major gun confiscation, there's been a slaughter of the people by the government all throughout history, and they're going to do the same thing again. I guarantee you, if you ever ended up with a Democratic Congress and a Democratic president again, we've got to think down the line. If you ever ended up with that, with no way to stop them, no resistance. It's not like we're going to win against our own military. They're way too more sophisticated, but it's still a deterrent.
That's what we thought in Vietnam. That's what we thought in Vietnam. That's what the Russians thought in Afghanistan.
Yeah,
here's the thing, sir.
Yeah, I do what
with all due respect, our military, I do not believe, will go along with confiscation. It would have to be somebody else's military.
They'll bring in foreigners. They'll bring in foreigners. Americans won't do it. They'll bring in foreigners to do it.
Well, look at, John, just look what Obama did. All of the generals, people forget all of the generals that he got rid of that were even remotely opposed to his policies. Lots of them. I'm sure all of them are not gone. But the reality is, boy, he got, what was it? At one point, there was over 200 and something generals that had been gotten rid of.
Right, sir. But in all due respect, remember the military runs on sergeants and staff sergeants, and the Navy runs on chief petty officers, senior chiefs, and master chiefs. They don't give a damn who's wearing the stars on their collar.
Yeah. And John, I just before I get off here, because I know you're winding the program down, but on your ad that's advertising your energy cleaners, when you give your address, I can hear because I'm listening on the telephone, I can hear, and I'm not on the internet, I can hear P.O. Box 201, but I cannot hear what city and state or zip code.
Well, let's do it right now. That city is Davisville, like Sammy Davis Jr., Davisville, Missouri, MO, 65456.
65456?
That's
it. Okay, 456.
Collection of the whole big 8 houses, right, John?
Say again?
I said a collection of 8 or 9 houses. That's Davisville, isn't it?
Well, it's a state of mind. It's not a place.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
So,
buddy.
John, I was going to ask you too, because I can't always catch your show, but when I can, I do. So, if you don't like the AR-15 platform, I was talking to a guy the other day, and this got me to thinking. He said, you can carry, if you start out with X amount of weight for bullet, that you can carry of the, like a 308, you're going to carry about half of what you can carry for the 223. And if you're running 7.62 by 39, you're going to be able to carry only, you'll be able to carry about a third more 7.62 for weight, 39, than you can the 308. So I'm curious if your preference is the 308, if you don't like the 223, then you've got the weight of a M1 Grand, or something along those lines, or what do you prefer then? An AR-10 or with a 308 that way, or just you don't like that platform?
AR-10 has the same basic design defects that the AR-15 does. The rifleman's rifle is the M14, which is also the M1A. That's the rifleman's rifle, and it's nothing. It's nothing else even comes close. There's a great book written that compares all the modern battle rifles. That was written by Boston Tea Party. That's a pseudonym, obviously. I don't have the title of the book in front of me, but Boston Tea Party is the author, and the U.S. Army and the Marine Corps rifle teams struggled for decades to figure out how to get the M16 to equal the M14 at Camp Perry. They finally came up with ammunition. The bullets are so long, the cartridge is so long, they won't even fit in the magazine. They have to be loaded one at a time to equal the performance of the M14 using ammunition that's normal and actually fits in the magazine. So I could go on and on about the inherent design defects in the AR-15, AR-10 platforms. Eugene Stoner corrected it when he developed the AR-18. He recognized the inherent defects in the AR-15, and the AR-18, which is also the AR-180, corrects those inherent design defects and makes a reliable little carbine. So
okay,
there you are.
I've never even heard of an AR-18.
They're not well publicized. The AR-18 is the military version. Select fire. The AR-180 is the civilian version's semi-automatic only. I bought mine in 1975 or so. 1974. I finally sold it because its collector's value got to be so great. I just couldn't justify holding on to it anymore.
Sure.
What caliber was that in, John? Was that
223? 223.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, really? Okay. So it is in the 223. It's not the cartridge that you don't like. It's just the platform.
I know. Well, at the time I didn't know better, but I've since come to understand that the 308 7.62 NATO is a far superior cartridge. If you want a Hollywood example, which is based somewhat on reality, Kyle, watch the film Black Hawk Down. You'll see the Americans, Rangers, are armed with M16s, and the Delta Force are carrying M14s. So the Rangers shoot they call the Somalians skinnies. They'll shoot the Somalian skinny terrorists 2-3 times with the M16, and the guy's still running. The Army Delta Force guys, they shoot the skinnies one time with one round from the M14, and the skinny goes down. And that's proven to be the case. These never-ending wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. The M14s have been brought out of storage. We first got to Afghanistan, Kyle. The Taliban was sitting off 500, 600, 800 yards away with 100-year-old bolt-action rifles shooting our guys who couldn't shoot back because the effective range of an M16 won't reach out to 800 yards.
Right, yeah. I'm familiar with that.
You're in Montana.
Yeah.
You know what long ranges are. You're in Montana, Kyle. Good grief.
Oh, yeah. I have practiced
hold
for a long
on,
time.
Kyle, hold on through the break. We've got a break. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday, the 22nd of February. Let's conclude your comments here, Kyle.
Yeah, that's fine, John. I just wanted to thank you for your show. It's really good. I was going to ask you, though, when you're talking about the energy cleaner, you never mentioned that I've ever caught is the price of it. I mean, my wife and I are trying to make it on Social Security, so I'm with only mine. So I'm wondering what's the price of it and the mattress pad.
Well, the mattress pads are going to vary depending on the size. Twin, full, queen, king, California king. The energy cleaner itself is $285, shipping included to American zip codes.
Okay. All right. That's all, John. I'll let you wrap up your show.
Contact me privately. You can contact me privately, Kyle. We can go over all the details if you want.
Can I reach you at that 592-9543 number?
No, my number's at my website. I'll give it to you, 314-965-3007.
314. Could you repeat that, please?
I say again, 314-965-3007.
All right. Thank you, John.
Okay. Boston's Gun Bible, 848 pages. Boston's Gun Bible by Boston T. Party. His real name is Royce. That's the book that talks about all the various assault rifles, and it's a good read. It's a long read, 848 pages, and it's well worth it. But he does one of the most extensive comparisons of military assault rifles that there is, and the M14 M1A comes out head and shoulders above the rest, as well it should. Tim, my M14 has had extensive remodeling. It originally started out as a Polytech Chinese M14.
Right.
My gunsmith and I worked together. We sent it off to a Fulton Armory. Fulton Armory removed everything and threw everything away but the receiver. These custom builders love these Chinese. It's a forged receiver, not a cast receiver. It's forged, and that makes the strongest steel. And then they built a new rifle around that original receiver, and it's a nail driver.
Cool.
It is a nail driver.
Well,
Absolutely.
I know, my son Kelly, when he was in Afghanistan, he absolutely hated that M4 he had. He couldn't stand it.
Same in 2018, the same thing as 50 years ago. That an inherent design defect blows all that dirt, unburned powder back into the action, or at around 300, between 300 and 400 rounds. I don't care how clean it is, it will start jamming on you because of that dirt buildup in there, and that hasn't changed.
He didn't lose the M4, but what he did do is pick up an AK-47.
There was
he left his M4 in the shack.
There was a Marine Corps company commander in Vietnam who would not go back to his main base camp because they would take away the M14s from his mount and issue him M16s. He just kept them out in the field. And a lot of
that's
GI.
understandable.
I carried an M1 carbine, M1 Thompson, had my M14, which was the only thing officially issued to me, and my 1911, which never left my side. But I wanted nothing to do with M16. But the guys that I knew that had M16s typically had 3 of them, so they could get through a firefight. They shoot one till it would jam, pick up the next one, shoot it till it was jammed, and hopefully the third one would get them through the firefight before they had to start cleaning these rifles all over again and get ready for the next firefight with 3 M16s.
Well, the only thing I was never actually issued. What the Navy calls it is checking out a weapon. But on those times when I needed a long gun, they always gave me a 45 caliber Thompson with a straight clip.
There you go. Tim, thank you. We'll talk privately soon. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good one, John. Thank you. Enjoyed the show.
Okay. That's it for the day. Get your medical supplies, your energy cleaner, your essential oils now while you can. Your firearms ammunition. Never, ever good for guns, especially M14. And God bless America.